Um, I am Nancy Grayson, and yes, I'm untraditional in so many different ways, including I wear overalls every day, period. Well, not to church. So my degree is in French and English with minors in biology and psychology with a teaching certificate as well in 4 years. My master's is in ed psych, and my PhD is in cognitive psychology straight as an academician. So no, I don't have a business degree. Sorry. So you'll hear a lot of unconventional things today. And I guess you're hoping for some pearls of wisdom from these overalls. So we'll see how that goes too. I really do love being an entrepreneur. I really do. Every day is full. Every day is exciting. Every day is what I want it to be, unless something interferes, which it always does. My father was an entrepreneur. My mother was a musician, and in fact, my father was an inventor. So you can imagine that my thinking doesn't match other people's thinking. I don't think well inside a box of any kind. So I'm sort of out there with different ideas and different ways to approach things. It has worked well for me, but I don't know any other way of thinking. So you gotta understand it's unique to me. I did have to learn to spell the word entrepreneur in 4th grade, and I remember that distinctly. I mean, 4th grade for me was a long time ago, and entrepreneur was not a word anyone used. But there was that father's occupation, entrepreneur, so that's when I learned the first of that. So it's been a long time in my genetic makeup to be a part of an entrepreneurial movement. I intend today to tell it like it really is. Not like you wish it were, or not like you can romanticize, but what it's really like. And so you may have heard it all before, but you may not have. If you have romantic notions of managing your own time, having your own schedule, doing things the way you want to do, it's really not about that at all. It's about problem solving on an everyday basis. It's about making your own plans and rules, but then following and sticking to those plans and rules. So I'll go through some of the things I've done, and we'll talk about some of the funky things that have happened along the way, and some of the good things. But I will say this. I do know how, after this many years, to write a fabulous business plan. I do know how to follow a business plan. I do know how to take risks. And I will tell you this. The first month Lula James was in business was only one day. It was Halloween. The second month we broke even. You tell me another restaurant that can do that. So listen up. I do have some pearls. But I was telling Kathy that she'll have to give me a signal when we get close to time, because I don't carry a cell phone and I don't have a watch. And if the bakery's open, my cell phone's there, because one of the things I practiced beautifully is frugality. My cell phone goes home with me at night. During the day at the bakery, it belongs to the bakery. One cell phone, total use. Cool, huh? And I have no contract, because I happened to get my cell phone before all those expensive contracts came in. So we're talking on the cheap. Perfect. Perfect. I've done a lot of things. I've gone down a lot of paths, and these paths have seemed very independent and very widespread until this point in my life, where things seem to have dovetailed nicely. And now I can see purpose in the things that I did before that I thought were unrelated. So, don't worry about being unique, and don't worry about doing things that are different, because at some point it may be necessary for you to be effective as you combine some of these different adventures that you go down. I will say that my longest term project is my 47-year marriage. Whew. And 2 daughters who are fabulous and productive and do very well in their chosen fields. So I'm very proud of those things, and it keeps me grounded to have this family to depend on or to reflect with or to pull me back into reality if I go down a path that's way out there, which I could. So here we go, but not in chronological order. These are some of the things I've done, and you'll note from the list that I must be really old because I've done a lot of things. So yes, I'm older than dirt and happy to be here. I shoveled manure in a barnyard. There was a lot of learning there, and I got the front page of the Houston Chronicle in a rainstorm chasing exotic animals, and as I splatted in the poop-filled water, click, and I made the front page. That was in high school. So I learned maybe shoveling manure in a barnyard was not going to be my lifetime experience. I taught high school psychology. I was the first psychology teacher for Dallas Independent School District. I taught at MCC for 10 years, social psych and psychology. I taught as a volunteer teacher in AP psychology at Vanguard for 10 years, high school here. I designed Christmas decorations for Lord & Taylor. I designed high-end children's clothing for the Dallas, Atlanta, and New York apparel marts. You would have never guessed that, would you? I wrote the AP exam, Advanced Placement Exam in Psychology, for 3 years with 5 others nationally who were unbelievable to work with. And I have to say, amongst all the things I've done in my life, I probably had the most fun and the most academic energy doing that. We would get together over weekends at 5-star hotels, go figure, and be sequestered into a room and think and talk psychology 24 hours a day practically for a few days. And we did that several times a year. It was unbelievable. So if you get a chance to do that, do it. I taught for the National Science Foundation. I taught at universities all over the U.S. for that. I'm the founder of the Rappaport Academy because I got really angry. I'm the owner of Lula Jane's because I wanted to build community. I'm building houses now in East Waco to preserve the history and heritage and culture within that environment without showing that development has to be new and funky and outside the box for a neighborhood that needs to maintain this history so desperately. We just finished renovation of a 100-year-old shotgun house, 750 square feet, and it is just burning up the internet with B&B reservations in East Waco, behind the fire station. Go figure. We're currently restoring and renovating a building on Elm to open a market to solve the food desert issue in East Waco. And my endeavors at this point always point towards social issues and resolution of social issues. So as my husband says, don't wake up in the morning because you'll have some new idea about something we need to solve. So sometimes I wake up and say, I have the greatest idea, and he says, oh no, what are we doing next? So the last time I did that, it was, we're gonna open a market, and he said, definitely not. Well, we're well into it, and definitely yes, we will solve that. But again, I look at things very differently. This is not going to be your traditional market. It's going to be community-centric, and we'll get to all of that. So life for me is very real. I wake up in the morning, and I know that what I do is very real. I don't mind the crew that wants to play mahjong or play bridge. I think that's great. That's not who I am. So for me, I want to make an impact. I want to do something that's helpful. I don't want my name out there, actually. I don't want any of that. I just want to leave Waco better than when I came, so that I can feel that my hours were positively productive. And that's a different feel. I am not interested in money. People are amazed when they're around me a while. They say, you really don't care about money. No, I really don't care. And so it's interesting because every endeavor I do, I don't care. I don't care about money, but I keep making money. And my accountant says, why do you do this? And I say, it's not my plan, but it happens. So there must be something in these ingredients that leads to success every single time. And I hope to impart a little bit of that to you. I learned that you must compare yourself only to yourself. You cannot compare yourself to others. So you have to look at yourself in depth to see who you are and where you want to go and how you compare to that model. A little Rogerian psychology with the real self, the ideal self, you know, if you want to put it in those terms. In working with College Board and Educational Testing Service, I realized how much more psychology I needed to know and wanted to know. I was so hungry for more knowledge. And that's really fun, y'all. And I wasn't that way in college. I had other things on my dance card in college. And it didn't include being the best college academic person you'd know. But the minute I graduated and moved to Dallas, got married, all of a sudden I got this thirst for knowledge. So after working with College Board, I decided I needed more info. I did have a master's at that point, but I wanted a PhD. So I went to, my master's was here in town, and I decided I needed straight psychology. So I went over to the psych department, in a local entity, and told them I was interested. After a 3.89 in the master's program, I thought, you know, maybe I could do psychology. And it was an intriguing day. I'll be very honest. I told you I'm going to be real with you. They told me I was 43 years old, and they told me I was too old, too unfocused, and that I would never produce. And no thank you, they didn't want my kind at that university getting a PhD. So I got in the car, and one way or another I got home in one piece. And remember, I have 2 daughters, and I walked into the kitchen, and I shrank against the wall and just puddled in a big wad on the floor with them standing there watching me and just in tears. Because I was sure that that's who I was. Too old, too unfocused, and would never be able to produce. And it was just awful. In my day of memories, that's one of my worst days in my memory, is to feel so small and so incidental to yourself. And went to bed that night just so down about it all. But then I woke up the next morning and I said, and remember, this is real, I said, who the hell are they to define who I am? They don't even know who I am. So I got in my car and tootled down the road an hour and a half and said, I want a PhD in psychology. And they said, put your application in. We have 300 applicants for 4 spots. Take your shot. And you know, I have nothing to lose at that point, do I? I mean, I've already been told I'm dumb, so hey, I don't have anything to lose. So I put it in, and guess what? I have a PhD from A&M in in psychology, in cognitive and social. Took 8-level PhD stats classes because, oh my gosh, that's where it's happening, y'all. Statistics is it. It's way cool. So anyway, go figure. I figured, I guess, after that, maybe I had some chance at doing something productive in the world. So that's one of my speed bumps, was trying to decide who I was when faced with someone else's opinion of who I was. When I was at Rappaport, I'm the founder of the Rappaport Academy in East Waco. So when I did that because I was really angry. The scores in 1995 in East Waco, 30% of third graders could pass the state mandated test in 1995. Oh, and you think that's bad? By fifth grade, by some miraculous event, by fifth grade, these kids only 10% could pass. They'd become dumber. And I thought, with a cognitive background, this does not happen. People don't get dumber. So something's not serving our children appropriately in our educational system back in 1995. So I started Rappaport Academy thinking, you can do anything. I didn't know squat about what I was doing. But after a few years, I learned, and I got better at it. And then I'll tell you a story that helped me learn something really valuable on a regular basis of everyday life. There was a kid who was really tough. It was year 2 at the school. And cute as could be. Boy, that kid was cute. But man, was he bad. And so he'd had a particularly rough day that included throwing some rocks at some cars. Not good. So we had done a little bit of discussing with Patrick about his day. And he went home, and after school that day, they lived across the road in the projects, and after school one day, here came his guardian. Everyone knew her, Aunt Virgie. Only this time, coming across the street from the project, she was swinging a baseball bat. And everybody in the school got in their cars and left. Literally. I was the only human being in that building because they knew Aunt Virgie meant business. So I opened the door to the school, and I thought, how am I going to survive this? And she lit into me like you would not believe, verbally. Loud as could be, and it didn't quit. And you know, I thought about defending myself, and then I thought, why don't we just hear this thing out? So I didn't say a word. And she went on and on and on for what seemed like 30 minutes. It was probably more like 5, but it felt like 30. And the words and the cussing and the lambasting, and I just listened. And we came to the point where she used up all her words, and she was quiet. And I thought, now I know why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Because we should quit talking and we should listen. And that has worn well for me through all the years. And I want you to know, Aunt Virgie, then I said, well, here's what really happened to Aunt Virgie. And she turned on heel really fast, swinging that bat, and yelled all the way back home, Patrick! So she was going to have it with Patrick. I don't think she ever used the bat. It turns out when you listen, you learn a lot of things too. And over the next year, I learned that a relative had dumped 5 children on her doorstep, said they'd be right back. She had already raised her children. They'd be right back and never returned. She was left with 5 little kids and her own grown children. And she raised those kids like a lioness with lion cubs. And Patrick still comes to visit me. It's great. So I learned to use my ears and not to use my mouth so much. And people are always saying, how do you know all this? How do you know all this? And all I do is go. I don't ask people questions much. I just listen. So I'll never forget that lesson from Aunt Virgie. I confess that there are no roadblocks. I don't think there are roadblocks for anyone. I think there are speed bumps. So I'll give you some examples of some of the speed bumps. Let me talk about the development of Lula Janes as an example. By the way, the Rappaport Academy, while I was there, 13 years, no salary, no pay, 13 years, 70 hours a week, we made it to the U.S. News and World Report, top schools in the nation, and a request from the Gates Foundation that we might work with them. We didn't ask them, they asked us. So that was really cool, that was fun. So looking at Lula Jane's, I, once again, knew nothing about running a restaurant. I didn't want a restaurant. It wasn't on my dance card. But when you look at community development and economic development in a tight-knit space like East Waco, you have to realize that if you want people to come together and commune, there's only one way to do that, y'all. You can't hold community meetings and get to know people. You can disseminate information, but you can't know them. So I decided, well, the only way to do that was around a table with food. Here comes the restaurant. And everybody always said, you know, you bake really well. You should have a bakery. So I thought, okay, I'll have a bakery. And then I looked at all the pieces I wanted, including a garden that would mentor people in gardening, a water collection system to water the garden so that we could show that environmentally we were responsible and looking at how to do this. So there were so many pieces I wanted to pull together, and we made a part of our land what's known as a pocket park in Waco. We declared it a pocket park. And I tell you this because it gets real important. It means money, good money. So in starting Lula Jane's, I went to the city and said, okay, I want you to provide me with the $5,000 water collection system. And they said, you're crazy. And I said, no, I think you're going to want to do this because I have a declared public pocket park. So you can either pay the water bill into eternity, or you can buy me a water collection system with TIF funds. And they said, no, we've never done that. And I said, never done that doesn't mean can't happen. We have a gorgeous water collection system, y'all, 5,000-gallon tank. It works. It works great, and I didn't have to pay for it. Thinking outside the box gets you there. You can't think like everybody else and get what you want. You got to be creative in solving problems. So there's no way I would be able to recoup that $5,000 or $6,000 anytime soon, so I needed the city to do it for me. They also provide all the mulch I want because I have a public pocket park. I just call and say, bring the dump trucks over, I'll take 3 loads. And they bring me all the mulch I want because I have a public pocket park. So I used social psych principles when I developed how we would do Lula Jane's. And one of the things was I was very specific about what I wanted the building to look like. Now, how many of you have been to Lula Jane's? A good many of you, okay. It's real open, real glass. That's not mine. That is not mine. We built the ground up, and I sent my architect exactly what I wanted. Little panes of dark green muttons and mullions, you know, and little windows. It was so cozy. It was what I thought it should look like. And she sent me back the plans the next day, and she happens to be my daughter. So she sent me these plans back, and in Z form so I could tour them myself, you know, and look all around in these drawings. And I said, what is this? And she said, well, it's a little different. She said, you don't need what you did. You need this. Well, I said, I can't tell where anything is. I can't tell what this is going to look like. She said, don't worry, it's perfect. And how do you tell your daughter no when this is what she does for a living? You know, no, you're not any good, which, by the way, she's doing the full 9-gate extension on the Austin airport now. Yeah. So you don't look at her and say, this is not happening, Meg. You say, perfect! We're going to build it just this way. And you know what? Dang, she was right. Everybody loves to come in because it's light-filled, it's flooded with light and openness and a feeling of welcoming, and she was right. Cozy would not have cut it at Lula Jane's. It just wouldn't have. So you got to listen to people. You got to be open to change and breathe. And it worked. So Lula Jane's, the design was there, and then we had to decide, what are you going to name this? You know, no one is coming to East Waco. The never, never land of danger is what people thought at that time, 6 years ago. No one's coming to Nancy's place. No one's going to come to the Elm Avenue Bakery because it would be on Elm Avenue. So we sort of went through the catalog of family names, and I thought, well, Lula Jane's really cute. Don't you think the Baylor kids would be curious? And so we named it Lula Jane's. Lula Jane is my grandmother, was one of the most terrible cooks you've ever been around. Was not her thing. Yes, we could have written the help. Sorry, but I'm from the deep south. So we named it Lula Jane's because I knew people would come because they were curious. The name would draw them in. Great social psych principle. But then I knew they'd never come again if what they got was not irresistible. Got that? I'm going to tell you in life that if you can settle for good is good enough, don't bother. Don't bother, because you will get nowhere. So we grilled and drilled. I hired a fella named John Sturkey, and he and I did recipes in my kitchen for 3 months before we opened that bakery. And we worked really hard. You do not know how I dislike coconut. And did before. Do you know who has the best coconut pie in this city? Lula Jane's. And that's my recipe. I forced myself to eat that nasty stuff. But people love it. I don't, there's no accountant for taste. So anyway, excellence drives us, period. Excellence in the environment. Have y'all noticed things about our staff? I mean, you walk in, it's like they were waiting for you. They're so happy to see you, and they are. They're genuine. That is not fake. I do not hire anyone in that bakery who does not feel like everyone who walks in that door has value. We feed the homeless, and you may be sitting next to them and never know it, but we feed them for free. We're mission-driven in feeding people who are hungry in East Waco. They also know there's certain premises of decorum they must maintain to continue to eat for free in Lula Jane's. You cannot stand up in the middle of the restaurant and cuss Nancy out. That's your ticket out. And it's happened. Everything's happened at Lula Jane's. But learning that there is a standard of decorum is important. And we will feed anyone for free who's hungry. Anyone for free who's hungry. And we don't make a big thing about it. We don't say, oh, you're going to eat for free. We just say, what can we get you today? Oh, no, we're not taking any money for that. We're just glad you're here. And then they learn that they're part of the system that can actually come in and eat for free. So it works great, but there are rules. You know, like I said at the very first, there are rules, and we stand by those rules. And so people have to think about that. So the business, though, thrives because we are driven by excellence. I didn't just type out all the recipes and laminate them and that's it. We have changed every recipe multiple times since we opened. Because one of the things in restaurants that a lot of restaurateurs don't understand is, it's not about you. It's not about me. We're a service industry in a way. It's about the people who come into that building. We listen to them. I read every friggin' review that comes out anywhere. I read it and I pay attention to it. And I'll redesign, redevelop recipes. I use chemistry all the time to figure out what's wrong and what can we do to make it even better. So we're very driven to making sure that when someone walks in, our hope is they can't get it anywhere else better or as good as what we've got. When we do a new recipe, I don't know if any of you have ever been in Lula Jane's, and we have such fun. Because the first iteration, we taste it, and if it's okay, we throw it out. If it's better than okay, we'll keep it. Then we'll modify it, and then the next few iterations of it, it takes us a bunch of them. We take it out on the floor, and you say, taste this. Tell us about the texture. Tell us about the flavor. Tell us what you like about it. Tell us what you don't like about it. And then that helps us go back and reframe how we're looking at that particular product, because y'all matter. That's why we're there. We're not there for us. I can wake up every day and look in the mirror if I want to. I want to look up and see y'all in there. And so our food, whether it's sweets or savory, we're looking for y'all to be happy. So our guideline overall is real simple: joy. Do you realize that no one can make you have an attitude? They can't make you angry. Oh, he made me angry. Oh, he made me sad. Oh, he made me disappointed. No, you choose it. You choose it. Remember, you define yourself and you choose. And guess what I choose? So cool. I choose joy. So walk in the morning earlier than y'all are up, and I don't get home till 6 at night. And I'm happy all day long because I choose joy. And the faces that I see during the day and the people I meet have enriched my life incredibly. And so that even gives me more joy. So people who come in the bakery don't realize it. Y'all are all the reason I'm so happy. Isn't that fun? It's great. So you should try it sometime. So it's real hard for anybody to make me mad or make me sad. I mean, I might choose to be sad over something, but you can't. You can't control me. My husband wishes he could control me. 47 years he's tried and it doesn't work. So Lula Jane's, by the way, you may know this, Lula Jane's, we were surprised last month to discover, were the top 100 restaurants in the United States to visit in 2019. I mean, go figure. We didn't even know the list existed. It's a Yelp list. We didn't know it existed. We didn't shoot. My sister called me from Virginia and said, I just saw this. Did you see this? And I said, yes, somebody sent it to me on Facebook. And she said, what did you do to get that? And I said, beats the heck out of me. We weren't trying for it. We're just trying to be the best. So excellence should drive you. Another caveat is there's only one thing you cannot replace, literally, that has more value to your life than anything, in my estimation, and that's time. You wake up in the morning and you have a defined set of time. And it's not like money. You know, you spend money and then you can make more money. You spend time and it's gone. It's gone. I've always been very deliberate. A gift from my father. I've been very deliberate to know that when I wake up in the morning, I have time to literally spend. And so my days are very deliberate. People say, I don't understand how you get so much done. Well, I just have so much time. Every day I just have so much time. And I'm going to spend it judiciously, carefully, so that I don't look back at my day and say, well, how did I waste all that time? Because it's gone. So when I get sick, I get really angry at myself if I can't stay on my feet 12 to 15 hours a day. Now, when we started the bakery, here's a real confession for you. You think the food's great at Lula Jane's? We worked so hard. John Sturkey right now he's the one that started, I hired him first. He's now the baker for the 53rd ranked restaurant in the world in Copenhagen, Denmark. You talk about excellence? I taught him everything he knows. But John and I didn't know how to run a restaurant. He was a school teacher and didn't want to be a school teacher. So he came to work for me. So when we opened the restaurant, we opened it with no advertising. And by the way, we continue, no advertising. We do not advertise Lula Jane's because I won't spend the money. Remember, I'm frugal. I'm frugal. I can use that money to feed more people in East Waco. So I'm not going to advertise. We opened that door expecting no one to be there because we didn't tell anybody we were opening. And there was a crowd outside the door. Well, then we had to figure out, how do you cook for a crowd? Now, you'd think we already had this down. No, we didn't. We were making one pie at a time, you know. Oh, who's making the fudge pie today? I'll do that, John. Who's making the peanut butter crunch pie? Oh, I'll do that one. You know, it was that kind of baking. We're not far from that now because we like things to be fresh. But we were so tired because we had to bake all day long, help people all day long. And we worked, are you ready? You're not going to believe it. We worked 21 hours a day for the first month. Now let me tell you this. If you've stood on your feet for 21 hours a day, do you know how swollen they get? Your shoes won't even fit on you. And they hurt so bad. And then you go home, and luckily, John got to go to sleep at his house. I had to do the laundry from the bakery and still be back at the same time. So I got 2 hours of sleep, and he got 3 hours of sleep. We were exhausted. There wasn't time to eat. There wasn't time to sit. There wasn't time for anything. I mean, we dropped weight like we were orphans in who knows where there's no food. I mean, we looked terrible with swollen feet, and then these just, it was terrible. And we'd get so hungry. So we'd get so hungry, we'd sit down on the floor at about 11 or 12 at night, open a Blue Moon beer, and eat dill pickles out of a jar, and get back up and keep going. So I'm telling you, being an entrepreneur is not easy, but it's great. So let me run through a couple of the last minute caveats for success. How about that? And then we're good. Oh, and then there's more things we're doing. You'll just have to come visit at the bakery. One is make mistakes and celebrate your mistakes. You should be friggin' glad when you make a mistake. It is your only opportunity to learn. If you get it right, there's nothing to learn, is there? So make mistakes and tell someone you made a mistake. Learn from that mistake and move forward. It's so cool. We celebrate mistakes. We throw things away at the bakery all the time because they're mistakes. Always shoot for excellence. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. These days, I will say excellence is underrated. Most people, think about your classes. Was good just good enough? You wrote a paper and it was good enough? That's not excellence. So start now, practice now. My business mantra is always, it is okay not to make money. It is not okay to lose money. It's a fine line. So I always seem to make a lot of money. Go figure. Do your homework before you launch any business. It will save you headaches. It will keep you sane. And it'll lead you down the right path. So do your homework, follow your plan, know what you're doing before you start. Questions? Was that fast enough? No questions. Everybody's happy. He's got a question in the back.
Well, as I'm walking back here, we talked a little bit about your garden.
Oh, yes.
So
let me tell you about while you're walking back there. It was in my notes and I didn't follow. When we opened the bakery, the vegetable garden, remember the vegetable garden? And needed to water it? Well, the vegetables were for the bakery, so we could cook with fresh stuff. And the health department came and said, oh, no, you can't do that. Speed bump. No, you can't do that. You're not a certified garden. And I said, what's this? Okay, give me the rules, and we'll make it a certified garden where I'll be good. And they said, there are no rules. And I said, wait a minute, how do you know I'm not a certified garden? Well, we just know, and you're a little tiny, and there's no way you could be a certified garden. I said, what about HEB? And they said, oh yeah, they're certified. I said, what are their rules? They don't have any. I said, what's wrong with this picture? I can't get from A to B, period. And they said, that's right. I said, okay, so I'll take my stuff to the farmer's market, and then I can buy my own produce and I can cook it. And they said, yeah, because the farmer's market, and then he stopped in mid-sentence and said, no, you can't do that either. And I said, tell me how garden to table works in Waco. Oh, it's not allowed. I said, but we're a garden to table. Oh, no, you're not. So I went to the mayor, who loves going to the farmer's market. That was Malcolm Duncan back then. And I said, Malcolm, we have a major problem here. So I explained it, and 2 weeks later, the head of the health department walked in and said, I've come personally to tell you, you can be a farm to table, and you're the first in McLennan County. And I said, how does this work? And he said, the onus is on you. You want to buy vegetables, you want to produce vegetables from little independent places, you have to go and make sure that you're not going to give out E. coli, et cetera. You're the one who judges, not the health department. And I said, sign me up. So every vegetable and fruit place we buy from, I have visited to make sure they use clean processes and that no one's going to get sick. And as far as I know, no one's ever gotten sick at Lula Jane's. But it was a speed bump, not a roadblock. Question?
Could you tell us a little bit more about how you broke even in 2 months? Because that's absolutely insane, and I've never heard of that happening before.
I know, I'm friggin' good. You know, I am. You know, you don't run a school on $80,000 the first year and pay 3 teachers' salaries without going in the hole. I did it. I did it. So when it came to the bakery, the business plan was very clear. Remember the 21 hours a day, and you think, why didn't you just hire more people? No money. You don't have the money, you don't spend it. Oh, what a novel idea. You don't make life easy on yourself so that you can go into debt. I'm sorry, I'm of the work ethic era, and you work your buns off and you get it done. The other is, there are 2 ways I look at investments. And this is real important for staying out of trouble. Long-term investment, short-term investment. The bakery on a daily basis is a very short-term investment, or on a monthly basis, or on an annual basis, short-term. Long-term, my building is a long-term investment. Yes, I spent $700,000 on that building after adding on. The total is $700,000. You wouldn't think it walking into Lula Jane's. $700,000. But that's a long-term investment. I could close Lula Jane's today. I can turn around and sell that building for $1 million. I don't pay myself rent for that building because for me, I'm the owner of the building, I'm the owner of the business. That's not usually the case. Usually, you're the owner of the business and you're renting space. I'm old. I get to do what I want to. I built the building. I don't owe anybody a dime for it. So I don't have to pay myself for it. It is paying itself off by itself, but so that's one way. The other is my frugality. Yeah, I did count how many paper towels people used for a while back in the kitchen. Because frankly, that $25 box of brown paper towels is expensive. You better not use too many. So Warren, what's his name? Anyway, he says, if you watch your nickels, not pennies, if you watch your nickels, you never have to worry about the dollars. We lose sight. Oh, this is not very expensive. We can waste this. We took the covers off our paper towels, and I cut them up, and those were the notepads at the front desk. So, you know, there's no, yeah, that's how I broke even.
Thank you.
Carefully. And we're still not in the red, so that's good. Anyone else have 2 more? I'm on the hot seat.
I'm intrigued by the pocket park as part of your property. Can you talk a little more about how that came to be?
It came to being because I want people to be on the property when we're closed. We're a community gathering point. And so we have picnic table, and we used to have two, but one fell apart. And Bob hadn't built me another one yet. And we have a beautiful park bench there too. And we have a little dog run where my big 100-pound dog stays during the day. So, and grass. And so people bring their picnic, they bring their blankets, and we see family gatherings there from the neighborhood on the weekends. That was the goal. If we're not there, you can still be there. And we're not like most land or business owners who say, don't come around here if we're not open. We're like, bring it on. So in line with that, on the other side of the bakery, you may have noticed they're little tiny trees. I love tiny trees because I enjoy watching them grow and because they're cheap. Most of them came out of my yard. So I had planned a wonderful B&B cluster there. And the city said they really wanted that, but they didn't like my plan. They want them all lined up on Elm Street. And I said, no, the goal is to wander through, and neighbors can wander through. It'll be a pretty little community area over there. And they said, no. And I said, okay, I'll plant trees. And they said, no, you won't want trees. I said, there's no code. I can plant any tree I want. And they said, that's right, but you'll want it to be commercial. And I said, I think you misunderstood. I love trees. So no B&B, trees. I got it, check. Now I have trees, and that will provide another side to having picnics and enjoying, because Elm Street is now all sold and will be all commercial except for a pocket park and a tree lot. Hey, we'll have green space because I really believe in green space. So there you have it.
Could you talk a little bit more about what you think should be the role of cities, urban planners, and other organizations in fostering economic growth in neighborhoods like East Waco? You know, not every depressed region has someone, has Nancy Grayson who's going to start a school and is going to start a restaurant and is going to renovate houses and so forth. Waco, like a lot of other cities, uses targeted tax breaks and subsidies from these tax increment funds and so forth to try to target development in particular areas. In your experience, is that the right strategy, or is there something else that cities should do?
That's part of it. You have to realize that development in a blighted community, which East Waco was labeled as, it's a compromise. And I realize I play a definitive role in gentrification. Remember, I'm honest. I would like to say everything I'm doing is good for the neighborhood. It's not. Because taxes are going up, and people who've lived there for 3 and 4 generations will eventually have to move because they cannot pay their taxes. And then where will they move that they can afford and have the same kind of house they have? And the answer is they won't be able to. And I am a part of that problem. So, being a person who likes to look at social issues and problems, I have a plan. And the city council is going to have to buy in. So I'll be at city council this spring several times, giving them my plan for freezing taxes for those who can show 30-year ownership of their homes, that freezes their taxes for 10 years and gives them the opportunity to plan ahead about how they will manage this. Because right now we're just dropping it on them. If you think taxes are lower in East Waco than they are across the river, you are dead wrong. My taxes for Lula Jane's, my property taxes were $17,000 this year. So I have to sell, do you know how many scones or cookies I have to sell to profit $17,000? That's mind-boggling. So that's why I need all the Baylor kids to keep coming and buying those cookies, so we can keep our property tax going. But that means my neighbors are in the same. Now, I own a lot of lots over in East Waco because I was smart. When people said nothing over is worth anything, I said, okay, I'll buy them. So I could get a lot for $1,500. They're tiny. Lots in East Waco are 50 by 125, 150. They're small. You want to know what those lots are selling for today? Not mine, I won't sell them. They're selling for $15,000 to $20,000. That's in 3 years' time. What's going to happen in 3 more years? So if that gives you an idea of the changes in what these people are paying for property tax, it's going to be astronomical. We have to help solve that. So that's something we have to navigate and negotiate with the cities. And I use comparison data from other cities who've done it. And that's the only way to win a little wedge into this notion of freezing taxes. I think cities are looking more and more at urban development because the infrastructure costs are lower. And they would like to do that. I think we're going to have to be careful that you don't become Austin, where they're building 2 houses on tiny lots and the houses are worth over $1 million, because they want to cram more people into the inner city infrastructure. We know from years ago, 40 years ago, studies with rats who are crowded, they get angry and they fight each other. So we have to continue, and that's one of the reasons I provide green space. We need stretch. We need space to get to know our neighbors and to have our own gardens and to experience some quality of life. You don't need 6 acres for one house. I'm getting ready to build a house on a 37-foot wide lot, and it is going to be just fabulous. And it's going to fit the neighborhood. So we just need to look at ways to do that and continue to build community, not just provide what everyone wants, because we won't win. Does that help at all? TIF helps. TIF helps, but there's only Elm Street and Taylor Street. If I build something on Rose or Tyler or any of the other streets over there, I don't get any help. It's just my money. So there you have it. Big developers are coming in, they're taking over. They have different ideas on the economics of development. And mine is always to maintain culture and to maintain quality of life, and theirs is to maintain bigger pocketbooks. Let me tell you something. When you free yourself of the bounds that more money makes you more valuable, life is very different. It's very different, very freeing. And then you don't have a sense that if you have more money, you're better, you're smarter. And that divides us. So if you don't worry about money, or you have that luxury, I have that luxury. I have a husband who's earned a living for a long time. So I have that luxury. But it is a very freeing experience.
Are there any other questions?
I knew it. I know. A lot of people ask that. Number one, there will never be a cookbook because you cannot have my recipes. It is who we are. We get asked that daily. Can I have your recipe for this? And then they get real tricky. Well, do you put this in it? Oh, I don't know. Wouldn't you love to know? My other answer is always, I can tell you, but then of course I have to shoot you. So is that your choice? And the choice is always no. And no one wants to know about my life. I think the only thing I want is that when people are in Waco in the future, they don't know my name. I hope they don't know my name. I hope instead they see that Waco's a neat place. That's all. Yeah, that's what should drive us. So don't name any streets. Don't name any. Yeah, no parks. Just don't cut my trees down. And everybody have a good time. Joy. It's all about joy. Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity.